It's like stitches. It's creepy when you have transplants. And it's a, actually it's kind of neat because it's the only surgery that doesn't contain it. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, I love it.
Dolly Wall. Well, the one I started with died in a plane crash. So I had to start all over again with somebody else. There's one running now, but hey, I was the first one ever elected. It's kind of sad. The girl that came after me sat back and called me 20 years. It was terrible.
Very much full.
He has a weak bladder. He has a weak bladder.
Oh, okay. Waiting on you, shipmate.
Thank you. Thank you. Shipmate.
He knows what I called him. Shipwreck.
We play a game with this chair. It's broken. I usually end up with it.
I don't know how that always happens.
I know how it happens.
It's just magic, man. It stands up
Thank
there.
you.
Good evening, everyone. We're going to begin the council meeting for May 10th, 2021. If you would stand for the Pledge of Allegiance and a moment of silence. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Mr. Thomas, roll call, please.
Certainly. Mr. Delaney?
Here.
Mr. Dern?
Present.
Mr. Doyle?
Here.
Mr. Hadley?
Here.
Mr. Odom?
Present.
Mr. Pastor is not here this evening. Mr. Vento?
Here.
Mayor Schlegel?
Here.
We have a quorum.
Thank you, sir. Motion to approve the treasurer's report for the month of April.
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Dern.
Second.
Second by Mr. Doyle. Mr. Thomas, if you would, please.
That's the expenses.
Oh, I'm sorry. So we have a motion by Mr. Dern, second by Mr. Doyle. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. And now we have a motion to approve the expenses for the month of April.
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Doyle, second by Mr. Dern. Mr. Thomas.
General fund payables requiring council approval for the month of April, $228,011.98. Street improvement fund payables requiring council approval, $2,568.99. Debt service payments, street improvement fund, $216,642.08. Fire fund payables requiring council approval, $53,427.41. Fire fund debt payments, $29,481.25. Debt service fund payables requiring council approval, $431,282.30. Capital improvement fund payables requiring council approval, $73,038.37. Flood mitigation fund payables requiring council approval, $60,251.77. Emergency medical services payables requiring council approval, $1,839.34. 2019 bond fund payables requiring council approval, $529,938.41. Purchasing card direct vendor payments, Republic Services, $173,395.75. For a total payables to be approved of $1,799,877.65.
Having received the motion in a second, would you vote to approve the expenses for the month of April? All those in favor, excuse me?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Motion to approve the minutes of the April 12th, 2021 council meeting minutes.
So moved. Second.
A motion by Mr. Dern, second by Mr. Doyle. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Recognition of achievements in the community. Excuse me.
Thank you. And before I turn it over to Brian Maloney, I want to thank everybody in the community that participated in the borough cleanup. I had a funeral I had to attend that day, and going out, there was, I saw families, people all over the place, keeping Plum clean from the winter mess. And again, that's what this community is about, and I want to thank everybody that participated in it that day. Secondly, I'd like to thank the staff for another successful extravaganza. 700 and some, 750 I think it was, came through there. It was really great. So again, thank you. Brian, I understand you want to steal my time.
Thank you, Brian.
No, I appreciate it. I really do. So
So do we.
Brian, you need a raise.
hey, I
buddy.
was just curious what was going to happen if you sat in that chair. That would have been entertaining. But Brian Maloney, Director of Operations, Plum EMS. I'm actually doing a little special presentation here this evening. There's a lot of times when we go on calls, especially cardiac arrest, where no matter how hard we work, how hard the crews give it everything they got, it doesn't turn out the way that they want. But what they do is they give that person a fighting chance. And that's one of the things, time and time again, it happens. And the survivability of an out-of-hospital cardiac arrest, some research says is less than 10%, some says 13 or 14, but it's not very common. And so when it does happen, we love to celebrate it for the fact that we have helped someone get to that point of not only just get a heartbeat back, or now breathing on a ventilator, but able to walk out of the hospital, be with her family again. And so this story actually starts back on February 5th, where we have Miss Kristen Frederick, who she wasn't feeling well, 35 years old, and her husband, bless his heart, he had some chocolate and figured relaxing and watching TV could potentially help her feel a little bit better. They did, after a little bit, she's like, I just have to go lay down. I'm not feeling very good. So a half hour later, all of a sudden, he heard her making the oddest snoring sound. It almost sounded like she was gasping for air. And so Rob goes and checks on her, and when he does, she finds that she's unresponsive with her eyes open, and she's gasping for air, what are known as agonal respirations. Immediately, he knew something was wrong, and he called 911. Also called family trying to get some help. And once he got connected in with 911, talking with telecommunications officer Austin Toth, that TCO realized this wasn't breathing. And so even though Rob has had life-saving training when he was in the military, it's almost the kind of thing where you see it, your body freezes. You don't know what to do. Because of that 911 dispatcher, they helped them coach to say, it's time to begin CPR. And so he initiated CPR on his wife, while another dispatcher dispatched Plum EMS, Plum Police, and Holiday Park Volunteer Fire Department, because that's what we do for our cardiac arrest. We send everybody. And so Rob ended up doing chest compressions and CPR for 10 minutes before the first unit got on scene. Now, I don't know if you've ever done CPR training, and even with the folks who've done it with me, after 1 minute, you're exhausted, completely and utterly exhausted. Now, imagine doing it for 10 minutes. Now, he was also not doing it in an ideal situation because she was still laying in bed, so that mattress was absorbing a lot of the pressure that he was trying to push on that chest. But for 10 minutes, he gave it everything he got. There was no other choice. And so both Plum EMS and Holiday Park Volunteer Fire Department pretty much showed up on scene right at the same time. And when they walked in, she was in cardiac arrest. And they said it was amazing, too, because Rob actually had to let them into the house, and he ran from the front door and did this flying leap across the room and started chest compressions again, not even waiting for them. And so as soon as Plum EMS, we got paramedic Mike Recklines, EMT CJ Campo. We also had the Holiday Park Fire Departments. We had Second Assistant Chief Josh Scalamunga and also firefighter EMT Thomas Hortebay. We work with them on a routine basis. The volunteer fire departments in Plum, if we need help, they're there. And because of the fact we work with them so much, it was just perfect. It was spot on. They were working together. They got the patient or Kristen on the monitor quickly and saw she was in V-fib, which is a shockable rhythm. They shocked her right away. But unfortunately, that put her in that one rhythm where it doesn't look good. It looks like that flat line. They got her on the floor, and with the four of them, they provided CPR, provided ventilations. We've talked about those Lucas devices before, which provide those mechanical chest compressions. They had that set up, and let me tell you, watching those people work with that is amazing. It looks like a NASCAR pit crew, where it's just, dun, 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 next you know it's on, and it's this piston that goes down on the person's chest. It provides incredible chest compressions, and it never gets tired. What Rob did, it does without ever getting tired. And so all of a sudden they realized, we need to get IV access, but they were unable to. We have what basically looks like a small drill gun, and it puts a needle into someone's bone. It goes down into the bone marrow, and that's what they had to do for Kristen in order to give her medications. And they continued good quality CPR, ventilations, gave additional medications until they realized, okay, we need to secure an airway now. And paramedic Mike Reckline, when he went to go do that, he said it was just a miracle because all of a sudden she started breathing. They checked and found that she had a pulse as well as that. So this is one of the most delicate times after someone goes and brings a heartbeat back after a cardiac arrest, in which if there's too much movement, if it's too rough, too soon, you're going to put them back in cardiac arrest. So they took their time. They figured out what medications they needed to do to help stabilize Kristen, and that's what they did. It was an amazing event. And the nice thing is, too, imagine Rob as the husband who just did 10 minutes of CPR, I guarantee on nothing but epinephrine and adrenaline flowing through his veins. Now, all of a sudden, he has to sit back and try to watch this. This is where Plum Police, Patrolman Lee Temple, showed up. And he transitioned from a police officer to a social worker. He helped us the best he could, but he took Rob to the other room, talked to him, explained what was going on. This is a community at work, and it's unbelievable. I was just so impressed when I heard this story. I had nothing to do about this, but I couldn't wait for tonight. I couldn't wait to share this story, the fact that Kristen is here with us today. Now, the amazing thing as well, they get her to the hospital. They took her to AHN Forbes Hospital, some great people there. They stabilized in the emergency department. They ended up having to secure her airway and put her on a ventilator. Now, for the next 12 days, the way Rob told this to me, no good news whatsoever. There was little improvement. Her heart was barely beating, and it wasn't. It was the kind of thing where you didn't know how this outlook was going to be. And so on the 13th day, things changed. And the thing that made that the most impressive is she smiled. This is a woman who had been unresponsive, not responding to a name or anything. She heard one of her healthcare team members at Forbes Hospital make a joke to another healthcare provider, and she smiled and tried to laugh. And that was on the 13th day, and from there out, leaps and bounds for her recovery. It was an amazing story where basically they weaned her off the ventilator. She slowly started walking around with some assistance, then by herself. Day 26, she gets discharged from the hospital, spends a week in recovery, and then goes home. Just this past week, she met with a cardiologist that said, listen, Kristen, you're normal, you're baseline, just don't go run a marathon. So it's one of the things that it was incredible to bring the crew members. We were here at 6:30, and they got to meet Kristen. The Holiday Park Fire Department got to meet her. Patrolman Temple had the opportunity to meet her. This doesn't happen very often, to be able to see that we want to give that person a fighting chance, so things worked out. She, by far, has got to be an incredibly strong individual, a lot of strength here. And up here as well, to be able to be here with us today. So we're very excited for that. This is also a perfect example of the American Heart Association chain of survival, where it talks about being able to recognize activation, high-quality CPR defibrillation to the point of advanced resuscitation, post-arrest cardiac care, and recovery. And that's what this is. And I actually got a good friend here. She is the chair of our local chapter of the Southern Cardiac Arrest Association. She's been here once before to help recognize the life-saving efforts of everyone from Rob all the way down to Patrolman Temple, because it's an incredible thing. So, Ms. Rickens, this is Plum Boro Council.
Even though I put this on large print, I still need my glasses. It's so embarrassing. Thank you for allowing us to come this evening. Thank you for the community for giving us this time, and for everybody here that we're recognizing. So as Brian said, the chain of survival has 7 links, and that's important because that's what is shown on the certificates that I will be giving this evening. The 7 links are, number 1, awareness and action. You can't do anything if you don't have that. Just like your comment about cleaning up, you got to have awareness that there's a problem and action to do it. You got to call 911 so that the dispatchers can do their job, and it's faceted. They have to, provide coaching and education for the Good Samaritan, as well as dispatching all the folks that are coming. Early CPR, can't stress that enough. Hands only, chest compression only CPR, even during the pandemic. I encourage everybody to get online, learn how to do it, take a class. Early defibrillation, using an AED, an automated external defibrillator. Do you know where yours is in this building here? I question everybody here to go look for that before you leave. The professional responders, your police, your fire, your EMS, they need to get the patient to the hospital. Hospital care needs to be done, and then the hard work of the survivor where they can do rehab and recovery. And that is what we're celebrating, because when those links fall into place, intertwine, we have success. And as Brian said, out-of-hospital cardiac arrest survival, it's improving, but it's still kind of not as where we want it. So this is a huge celebration. And on February 5th, 2021, around 10:45 p.m., all the links came together, and you should all be very proud of everyone that I'm calling up here this evening. So our first link is the Good Samaritan link, and that is the husband, Rob Frederick. And his certificate is a certificate of heroism. Good Samaritan responder on this 10th day of May for responding to a sudden cardiac arrest emergency on February 5th. We wish to thank you for your integral role in the chain of survival and honor your life-saving actions. And not only that, I give each of the people a pin. And for the Good Samaritan, his pin has the SCAA logo, and it says hero, because that's what he is. And then, because there's always a little sense of humor, a roll of lifesavers. So Rob, if you could come up, please. Our 2 dispatchers, unfortunately, could not be here, but that was Josh DeTallo and Austin Toth. Then I have Patrolman Lee Temple with the Plum Boro Police Department. Thank you. So with the professional responders, they get a bar pin that they can wear on their dress uniform. And with each time I call them up, their Roman numeral will increase. So for example, firefighter and EMT Tom Hordebay has been recognized previously. So his pin has a Roman numeral 2 on it. And then second assistant chief with both gentlemen are from the Holiday Park Volunteer Fire Department, Josh Galamanga. And then we have our police and our fire. And then we have our 2 EMS folks, Colin C.J. Campo. He's an EMT. And then this next gentleman, he's kind of maxing out here. He is at Roman numeral number 5, so then he's going to start all over. So he's going to have a whole chest full of pins. Mr. Mike Recklin, paramedic. And then it's with a true pleasure that we get to recognize Kristen Frederick, who it seems weird to give a certificate, but she's an elite club with an out-of-hospital sudden cardiac arrest survival. And her certificate is a certificate of recognition. And it just says on this 10th day of May 2021 for surviving a sudden cardiac arrest emergency on February 5th. Your experience as a survivor of sudden cardiac arrest is truly invaluable in our efforts to increase awareness in the survivability of cardiac arrest events across the nation. We honor your personal character, strength, and determination, as well as express sincere wishes for a healthy recovery process. And she gets a pin that, of course, says survivor, and because life is sweet, she gets candy. So thank you again. Appreciate your time, appreciate everybody's time, and we'll see you again, I'm sure.
You know, one of the things we have with this goes to show you that with our EMTs, our police, they go through a great deal of training. However, the amount of time that our volunteer firemen put into training, and I have a son that's a volunteer fireman, so I know how much time they put into training and all the other duties you guys do. Thank you all. And Lee, thank you for remembering what you trained. But it's a team effort, as you pointed out. That's what made you one very lucky lady.
Absolutely.
Gentlemen, again, thank you all.
Thank you. Thank you, guys.
And I guess that ends my report.
Thank you, Mayor.
It's one of your better ones, Mayor.
Yes.
I agree.
A phenomenal testimony to the commitment of our folks.
Yes.
Okay, moving on with our agenda, civic announcements.
Good evening. My name is Tammy Andrew. I'm the Children's Program and Outreach Coordinator for the Plum Boro Community Library. I'd like to take just a few moments to share with you what I consider is one of the best free summer events happening in Plum this summer. Coming very soon is Plum Library's 2021 Summer Learning Reading Program. This year our theme is Tales and Tales. Statistics show that students on average lose between 25 to 30% of their school year learning over the summer. So we at Plum Library wish to partner with parents, teachers, and students to prevent that slide. We strive to create our summer programming to suit everyone from infants through adults. Everyone's welcome. Especially this summer, following the COVID pandemic, our program will be held outdoors with scheduled rain dates, as well as follow CDC guidelines and whatever they may be at the time. Some of the programs we look forward to are our Pause to Read program, where students have an opportunity to practice their reading skills to furry friends, dog friends, that is. Tales with Teachers, where we have wonderful Plum teachers come and share story times with the kids. We have 3 book clubs for various ages, from littles to teens to adults. We have story strolls on the library property. We have Carnegie Science Center coming, the Humane Society, a drum circle with music for life, a couple author visits, Pittsburgh storyteller Tim Hartman, Westmoreland Cleanways and Recycling, online coding and chess clubs, regular story times, and curbside crafts and STEAM activities. We also have visits planned to the Plum School District free lunch program to distribute books and craft and STEAM kits. We also will have a couple off-site programs at Boyce Park, which includes a story stroll and a ranger-led program. Children and adults will have an opportunity to fill out bingo boards each week during the summer, and if so many boards are completed throughout the summer, they'll receive special prizes at the end of the program, which includes books and restaurant coupons. Registration for Summer Learning Reading Event can be done online only beginning Monday, June 7th through Saturday, June 12th. And we ask that people register at plumlibrary.org. Our summer program officially begins the week of June 14th and ends Saturday, August 7th. In addition, we ask that for each program they wish to attend, that you register for a week in advance. So you can see that lots is happening at Plum Library. And if you've never stopped in for a visit, we ask that you do so. We'd love for you to join us, especially this summer. Watch for advertised programming on our website, Facebook, Instagram, or Twitter pages. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other civic announcements? Yes, ma'am.
See if I can get the mask off. I'm Anita Madak-Niece from Renton Volunteer Fire Department. I'm the president. My assistant chief was supposed to come and give these statistics to you and kind of talk to you tonight, but unfortunately, he's at a hazmat operations training. So that's where the guy, he said, which do you want me to do? I said, you got to get your training. So here I am. I'm just going to give you a couple statistics of our fire department for the beginning of our year, just some quick things. January through April, we've ran 105 fire calls, 83 QRS calls, making 188 total for our members. The types of fire calls that we have, 43% were automatic fire alarms, 31% were motor vehicle accidents. We've been having a lot of those lately. 18% actual fire calls, 2% hazmat, 4% natural gas calls, people smelling natural gas, 1% CO, and then we had a standby detail also. So that just kind of gives you an idea of what we do, of our, just our department. Each department has their own list of calls that they go to. Our solicitation is going out. All the fire departments sent out the annual solicitation. I hope everyone understands that our fundraising is still down because a lot of us planned fundraising at the beginning of the year. We were still, had to abide by COVID rules. And so we are kind of missing out on all the departments of some of the fundraising. So I do hope that people are able to help out a little bit. Thank everybody for the support that they gave our fish fries. We did takeout only. We did well. We were very pleased. We were afraid that we wouldn't do well, so we were happy that we went through with it. A lot of people in our neighborhoods and surrounding neighborhoods supported us. The other thing I have is for us, Renton VFD received a grant, we told you last year, for CO detectors, smoke alarm combos. We gave out 450 of them. When I priced them for the grant, priced them wrong. I was a little high. So I was able to get an amendment from FEMA, which finally came through, and they are allowing us to use the money to purchase an additional 500 items. These are the Kidda smoke alarms. The only reason we went with Kidda is price. Kidda does have, I've gotten some concerns, Kidda has a recall on these items, not our model. They're a totally different model. We have the 10-year lithium battery. It is not that model. So I did check with them. I checked with the manufacturer. I checked with the distributor. It's absolutely not the model. So we will be hosting some more neighborhood events. We have in our solicitation that someone can send back if they want one. We'll deliver it to them. And we're going to do some other advertising to get these additional 500 out to the public. So we're very happy that we're able to do that. Okay? Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Yes, sir.
Good evening. Jim Sims, Chief Hardy Park Fire Department. First, I want to congratulate my two men, Tom Hornabay and Josh, my assistant chief, and also CJ and Mike from Plum EMS and Lee Temple. We have another life-saving story to tell you. On April 29th, Jim Reynolds and Jody, his wife, went to Paul Mary's restaurant. You may know Jim from Plum Soccer. When they walked in there, Jim recognized there was a gentleman in one of the booths in distress. And he went over and evaluated the situation and realized that this gentleman was in trouble. Brought him out of the booth. He gave him one Heimlich maneuver, did not clear the airway. He gave him 2 more abdominal thrusts, which dislodged the meat, opened the gentleman's airway, and he survived. No one else in the restaurant knew what to do. But Jim was there in the right place at the right time, wasn't on duty as a volunteer firefighter, but I guess as a volunteer firefighter, you're always on duty. So that's 2 great success stories this evening. You know, when I was hired here on the police force in Plum Boro back in 1980, the Allegheny County Fire Academy was full, and they sent us to myself and Officer Doherty, the Pennsylvania State Police Academy. And there was a sergeant there who was in charge of our class. He told the story one of the very first days. This applies to all emergency services, whether it's police, fire, or EMS. He says, you know, when you want a new roof, you get several prices. When you want a new concrete driveway, you get several prices. You want a new kitchen, you get several prices. And you pick what you can pick. You pick who you feel is best. But when you pick up the phone and you call 911, you have no choice who's coming. You can't pick the police officer. You can't pick Mike Reckline with 5 CPR saves. You can't pick what fire department is coming. You have to be the best you can possibly be. And I instill upon my men, and I've taught throughout the years in both police, fire, and EMS, and I instill upon everybody I teach to this very lesson. You have to be the best you can possibly can be every single time you go out the door. And tonight is a perfect evidence of what being the best you can be is when you have Lee Temple take an initiative to talk to the family, even the husband, having learned CPR, and my guys and Plum EMS. It's so important that we're the best we can be every time you go out the door, because you can't pick who's coming when you call 911. Next week is EMS week. I'm sure my colleague, Mr. Maloney, will talk about it. Pleased to announce on Tuesday and Wednesday next week, we have 2 public classes for CPR and Stop the Bleed. We're even more pleased to announce, as part of that, both classes were filled to capacity. As I mentioned, the first line, the first part of that chain of survival is immediate CPR, immediate use of AED, and our classes are full. And finally, we do have a few spots left for our junior fire camp, June 21st to 25th. Not very many. We're having a great response, and we look forward to filling the class. And that's what I have for this evening.
Thanks, Jim.
Thank you.
Jim.
Thank you. Any other civic announcements? Okay, moving on. President's comments. I'm going to do my best to talk about some items from the Stormwater Task Force meeting. You'll have to forgive me. I'm dealing with some hiccups that don't seem to go away, so bear with me here. With respect to the proposed long-term solutions, we discussed the O-Block and QS projects, which were resubmitted to the DP. We're currently in negotiations to address the needed land acquisition for that project, as well as the work that's being done to support the Center Beach project. Hopefully the land acquisition can be finalized and potentially put to a vote in the June timeframe. DP approval is estimated in the fall of this year, and the project will hopefully begin in the spring of 2022. One of the other main items that we discussed had to do with the review of ownership for retention ponds. We're going to be making a recommendation to council relative to the potential ownership of some of those retention ponds. And we got an update from borough staff relative to the completion of the inspection of retention ponds, and a new inspection checklist that's been developed that essentially standardizes the inspection that's done along with the best management practices for retention pond maintenance. So that was all reviewed with the task force members. One of the other things that we talked about was the next public meeting. We originally tentatively had that scheduled for May 22nd. However, as you're aware, the maximum occupancy limits for COVID still being at 25% and essentially won't be lifted until the end of the month. The task force members discussed the option of conducting a rain barrel program event outdoors, and borough staff suggested that we hold that event during the Monday farmers market in order to capitalize on the potential number of people that could be involved in the event. So the identified date to conduct that meeting was May 17th, and the task force also recommended that program be conducted in June as well, and we're looking at a potential date of June 14th. So that should be really interesting for folks who are interested in the Rain Barrel program, we should have a lot of good information to put out to the public relative to participating in an event like that. And that's all the information that I have on the Stormwater Task Force meeting, and that concludes my president's comments, along with the hiccups. With that, we'll move on to citizen comments on agenda items.
We have nobody signed up for agenda items.
Okay, seeing none, then we'll move on to council actions. On behalf of the Planning and Economic Development Committee, Mr. Vento.
Thank you, Mr. President. On behalf of the Planning and Economic Development Committee, I move to accept the Kennedy Consolidation Plan FS-02-2021 application as complete.
Motion by Mr. Vento.
Second.
Second by Mr. Hadley. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
On behalf of the committee, I move to approve the Bayjack subdivision, FSC-03-21, application is complete, conditioned upon final review and approval by the borough engineer.
Motion by Mr. Vento.
Seconded.
Second by Mr. Dern. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Also, on behalf of the committee, I move to accept the Wilczek Consolidation Plan, FSC-04-21 application as complete.
Motion by Mr. Vento.
Second.
Second by Mr. Hadley. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
On behalf of the committee, I move to adopt resolution number 906-21, approving the application for an agricultural security area.
Motion by Mr. Vento.
Seconded.
Second by Mr. Dern. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
On behalf of the committee, I move to adopt resolution 904-21, designated borough official, a borough official, to execute all documents and agreements for the Renton Park Phase 3 grant application.
Motion by Mr. Vento.
Seconded.
Second by Mr. Dern. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Okay, I move to add to the agenda the reapproval of the Dominion Energy Ferguson lot line revision.
Motion by Mr. Vento.
Second.
Second by Mr. Hadley. This will be an item that we add to the agenda. I will open the item up for public comment if anyone would like to comment on this agenda item being added. Seeing none, Ms. Vento, proceed.
Okay, seeing none, I move to reapprove the Dominion/Ferguson lot line
one before
revision. Pardon me? Said to reapprove.
Oh, okay, good. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Okay, that's it. Lot line, Dominion Ferguson.
Motion by Mr. Vento, second by Mr. Dern. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
You must have hiccuped when you were here.
I did. I can't see. Thank you, Mr. Vento.
That's all I have. Thank you.
On behalf of the Personnel and Management Committee, Mr. Hadley.
Thank you, Mr. President. On behalf of the Personnel and Management Committee, I move to approve a cost of living increase for a retired police officer as recommended by the Borough Actuary.
Motion by Mr. Hadley.
I'll second.
Second by Mr. Vento. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
On behalf of the Personnel and Management Committee, I move to appoint Dan Moriarty to the position of Police Investigations as recommended by the Chief effective April 19th, 2021.
Motion by Mr. Hadley, second by Mr. Dern. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. And congratulations to our new detective.
Absolutely. On behalf of the Personnel and Management Committee, I move to authorize staff to advertise amendments to the civil service rules and regulations.
Motion by Mr. Hadley,
Seconded.
second by Mr. Dern. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
On behalf of Personnel and Management Committee, I move to establish a new civil service hiring list for the police patrol.
Motion by Mr. Hadley.
I'll second that.
Second by Mr. Vento. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
And on behalf of the Personnel and Management Committee, I move to add to the agenda the 2021 staff merit increases.
Motion by Mr. Hadley.
Second.
Second by Mr. Doyle. We're adding an item to the agenda. I'll now open it up for any public comment. Is there anyone here who'd like to discuss the item being added to the agenda? Seeing none, proceed, sir.
Okay, on behalf of the Personnel Committee, I move to approve the 2021 staff merit increases as presented.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Hadley, second by Mr. Doyle. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
And that is all I have. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. Hadley. On behalf of Public Safety, Mr. Dern.
Thank you, Mr. Odom. I too would like to add something to the agenda tonight. I move to add to the agenda a proposal for fire services evaluation.
We have a motion by Mr. Dern.
Second.
Second by Mr. Hadley to add an item to the agenda. We'll open it up for public comment. Yes, sir?
Good evening once again. If I may address the proposal. Back last year, the 4 fire chiefs met. We realized we're at a crossroads within the borough as where we are as far as equipment needs and staffing. And we've met several times to try and develop a plan of who goes next and who waits and et cetera. And every time we met, it was about everyone else's needs. I need this, I want that. It was we went back and forth. And then last month when we met, there was a talk about a 15-year plan. And I realized in talking to my associates that if we're going to do this, we need to go somewhere professional. Someone who doesn't have any skin in the game, somebody who doesn't know us and doesn't know much about us, but can come in and help us develop this 15-year or 30-year plan. For those who don't know my background, besides being a police officer, I have sold fire trucks for 23 years. That's my background. I sold part-time while I was on the police force, and then I retired from the police force in 2004. I continued on full-time as a fire apparatus salesman. I know the one gentleman who has applied as as the consulting fee. I know him professionally from attending his classes. I know him through my professional contacts. So I reached out to the chiefs and the presidents of the fire companies, and we arranged for a Zoom conference with him. So he had myself with 46 years in the fire service here in Plum Boro. We had Ira with 42 years, Anita 35 years, Ray Brenner, the president of Logan's Ferry with 37 years, Kerry Cole, the chief of Renton with 23 years, and PJ and Matt Austin. I didn't put them in there because it would skew my curve. So with the group, with the main group, we had 181 years of experience, or 36 years. So we interviewed this gentleman for about an hour. And actually, I can tell you that Mr. Brenner from Logan's Ferry, when we first started this, he was not for it. He thought this is something we should continue down the same path that we were heading. And upon completion of the hour interview with Mr. Wilbur, he actually made the vote, and the vote was unanimous to proceed with his proposal. I bring this up because a couple years ago I needed a new roof. My brother's in construction for 47 years. He doesn't let me have tools. So when I got my bids in for my roof, I gave my bids to my brother, and he told me who to hire to do my roof. So we have 181 years of experience out there talking to this gentleman. And for the people, some background at home who are watching this, just so I can go real quick through some of his backgrounds. I know you spoke to him this evening. He's retired from the FDNY as lieutenant. He's been doing fleet consulting for 25 years. He served on the FDNY Fleet Evaluation Committee. He actually invented a seatbelt accessory to keep seatbelts in place on fire trucks. He has the patent to it. He's a contributing editor to the Fire Engineering Magazine, Firehouse Magazine, and he's the only contributing editor that writes for both magazines. They have a no-compete clause. Because of his expertise and his experience, they allow him to write for both magazines. He's a part of the Fire Apparatus Journal. He serves with NFPA. He's a member of the Fire Apparatus Manufacturers Association. His company prepares the specifications, does the bidding, does the recommendation and awards, and does all the final evaluation for every fire apparatus purchased by the U.S. Marines and United States Navy. And he's done fleet analysis throughout the country, and safety and design is his main concern of apparatus. Excuse me. The service he provided, he would come into Plum Boro for 6 to 7 days with his associates. They would physically inspect every single piece of fire apparatus in this borough, crawl underneath them, look at frame rails, look for corrosion, look for brake wear, work for tires. They're going to look at the repair records. They're going to look at cost. They're going to develop a cost of ownership. They're going to look at staffing. Maybe we don't need trucks. Maybe we need staffing. They're going to look at staffing. They're going to look at mutual aid, who's going to come in for mutual aid. And they're going to look at structures throughout the community. Mr. Wilbur and I have already talked about the McMansions that they're starting to build in Plum, and we have discussions in regards to those. And, you know, I hope nobody out there sitting in front of me takes any offense to this. You're really hard pressed to find very many citizens more dedicated to their community than the volunteer firefighter. You know, today's May 10th. It's the 130th day of the year. My fire department has responded to 290 incidents this year, which is no surprising. I have the highest population density in the borough. I have the business district, I have the industrial park, I have all the apartments. But we have responded to 290 incidents this year. Yesterday on Mother's Day, where everybody's enjoying Mother's Day, my people left their homes 6 times yesterday, responding to calls for service. 6 times we were out, helping people who were in need. You know, it's over 180 hours for basic level of firefighting and 300 hours for EMT, and it just goes on and on and on. We answer calls 365. You know, we place ourselves in harm's way every single time we go out of the building. Every single time. Your son knows this. Because we put ourselves in harm's way, and it's just not a cliche when we say this. Yes, we don't burn a lot of houses down, we don't have things, but we've learned now that the #1 killer of firefighters is cancer. Do you know firefighters have a 9% higher risk of obtaining cancer than this average citizen? We have a 14% higher risk of developing cancer, of dying from cancer as the normal citizen. Over the last 15 years, we've lost 4 young men in the Plum Boro Fire Service under the age of 57 years old. The colorectal cancer was one of the high leading firefighter cancer deaths. Myself, I've been treated for squamous cell carcinoma in my right wrist, which my dermatologist says probably from the soot from the wristlets on my gloves. There's a member from another fire department who is battling lung cancer, never a firefighter, but an administrator. I won't name him, him or her, they're battling lung cancer. But they're in the station every single day, and they have found in recent studies that soot never dies. And what I mean by that is the carcinogens and soot never go away. So it's important that we have to clean our gear, clean our gloves. We at Holiday Park, we have a very stringent cancer awareness program. So every day there's between 100 and 120 citizens, dedicated citizens, to the fire service here in Plum Boro that are here to protect the citizens of Plum. There's about 120 of us. So what I'm asking this evening is, I know the gentleman that we recommended is higher than other people. We provide the best every single time we respond. And I'm asking that the council returns the favor and provide the best for us so that we can make smart decisions and we can put set the future for the volunteer fire service in Plum Boro. And we would make the recommendation that you would retain Mike Wilbur of Emergency Vehicle Response. I'll answer questions if anybody has anything.
Any questions?
Thank you, Jim.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other individual who would like to make public comment on adding this item to the agenda? Seeing none, Mr. Dern.
Okay. I move to accept the proposal from Emergency Vehicle Services in the amount of $29,800 for fire services evaluation.
We have a motion by Mr. Dern.
Seconded.
Second by Mr. Doyle. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
That's all I have, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Dern.
Thank you.
On behalf of the Finance Committee, Mr. Doyle.
Thank you, Mr. President. On behalf of the Finance Committee, I move to adopt Resolution Number 905-21, increasing the duplicate bill fee for our tax collector.
Motion by Mr. Doyle.
I'll second that.
Second by Mr. Dern. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
That is the end of my report.
Thank you. And that concludes council actions. Moving on with our agenda, the mayor's report. Mayor Slagle.
Thank you. A couple things tonight. In the month of April, we had 890 calls. As you can see, the call lists are going up. Also, Officer DeMarco will be putting his toys out, which are the speed radar signs. So you'll see them out there. Please don't challenge them and see how fast you can go if they're accurate or not. They're there for a purpose. And I'm hoping that someday we get a model that takes a picture of the license plate as you go by, but right now we don't have that.
It's a good thing you told everybody that.
Pardon me? And again, thoughtful citizens.
Everybody's cranky.
I'm always amazed
Grandfather.
at the people that come into the police department and, of their own volition and want to thank our officers. And this goes to the relationship between the citizens of Plum Boro and the police department, our police officers. Again, the same names you'll hear, you've heard in the last several months. Michael Cerniglia, again, provided donuts, coffee rolls, muffins, and Dunkin' Donuts as a sign of his appreciation. And on April 19th, Mark Reed, again, since last August he's done this, he provides a cake for all the officers who are celebrating their birthday that month. He brought a carrot cake from Moya's. I happened to be in there. I'm allergic to nuts, so I couldn't even eat it. But it looked phenomenal. And I understand that it was just unbelievable. So I was invited, but it was invited to something I could not have. And Carlo Runco, again, a new person, it's the first time I've mentioned her names. She donated pastry drops for cops. And the police department received 4 boxes of assorted donuts. And you wonder where those jokes come about police and donuts? They come from this. And again, it's people who are spending their money and their time to say thank you to our police. In return, one of our officers, Officer Barch, happened to respond to a call where somebody's mailbox was hit and asked the gentleman if he had a screwdriver, and he took the time. The police officer took the time to repair the mailbox. Didn't have to do that. He could have turned it over to Public Works. But again, it's just what our police officers do. Many training. A lot of our officers, as you've seen tonight with some of the medical training they get, but they go through a lot of training, and it continues on. I'm always amazed when I speak with the chief and I get his reports on what was done. And now I have one final thing. Officer Moriarty, would you please come up here so I can swear you in, sir? And this is one of the joys of my being mayor. I'll come down there, sir. I'll read after this report. I just thought of that. Would you raise your right hand and repeat after me? I, Daniel Moriarty,
I, Daniel Moriarty,
do solemnly swear that I will support the constitutions of the United States and of the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania.
do solemnly swear to
support the Constitution
support the Constitution of the United States
and of the Commonwealth of
and
Pennsylvania
of the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania
and the ordinances of Plum Boro,
and the ordinance of Plum Boro,
and will well and faithfully perform
and will faithfully perform
the duties imposed upon me
the duties imposed upon me
as a detective of Plum Boro
as a detective of Plum Boro
to the best of my ability,
to the best of my ability.
and that I will serve the United States,
I will serve the United States,
the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania,
Commonwealth of Pennsylvania,
and Plum Boro
Plum Boro,
honestly and faithfully.
honestly and faithfully.
I will obey the orders of the officers
I will obey the orders of the officers
and officials placed over me
and officials placed over me
according to law.
according to law.
Congratulations,
Thank you, sir.
I need you to sign these 3 before you can go away.
Okay.
And as a detective, one for you.
Thank you, sir.
And if you could deliver these to Mona and the chief, I would appreciate it.
I will.
And congratulations
Thank you.
again, Detective.
Thank you, everybody.
Thanks.
Congratulations, sir.
Dan.
Well deserved.
Congratulations,
Well deserved.
Dan.
And Mr. President, that's all I have.
Excellent. Thank you, Mayor. Moving on to our committee reports. The Intergovernmental Cooperative Committee with the Plum School District. I did have a discussion with Mr. Devine, President of the School Board. He did ask me to pass on that the district has partnered with Riverview and Giant Eagle to offer a vaccine clinic on May 12th and on June 2nd. The clinic is going to be open to anyone over 16, and we put that information out on our Savvy Citizen communication system. So for those of you who are still looking to get vaccinated, there will be an opportunity for you to do so on the 12th and the 12th of May and the 2nd of June. On behalf of the Finance Committee, Mr. Doyle.
Thank you, Mr. President. The general fund highlights for the month of April 2021, the borough recognized revenues totaling $549,695 and incurred expenditures in the amount of $1,084,134. Regarding those revenues to date, we have received $1.24 million in current year ended income revenues, and this represents 37% of the adopted budget. During the month of April, the borough received $50,292 under regional asset district funding, and we are currently at 35% of that budget. Under sanitation revenues for the year, we have received $735,802, and this amount represents 32% of the budget. Overall revenues are currently trending as expected. Regarding the expenditures through the month of April, the borough has expended 34% of the budget, and this translates to $4.63 million. From the departmental perspective, no budgetary concerns exist at this time. The Finance Committee will be scheduling a meeting to review actuals versus budget, and Mayor Druschel will also present the 2020 draft independent audit report. The borough's semi-annual bond debt payments associated with the 2015, 2016, and 2019 bonds that total $677,406 are due on June 1st, and we are able to make those payments, and they will be going out within the next week. And that ends my report.
Excellent. Thank you, sir. Roads, Equipment, and Grounds. For Mr. Pastor, we have Mr. Dern.
Thank you, Mr. Odom. Let me get to it here. The East Oakmont Stormwater Project has been completed. There remains some punch list items. We have reviewed plans for the Hardy Park Phase 2 Stormwater Project. It can be out for bid whenever the COG is ready. The Center New Texas Road Culvert Project engineering is complete. This can go out to bid at any time. The 2021 paving project bid has been awarded to Felino Construction. The paving work will not begin until late summer, early fall due to stormwater work being completed. Road maintenance. We have completed inlet repairs in Whispering Pines area. Under drain work has been completed on Avers Creek Road. Inlet repairs have been completed on Allegheny Avenue as well as asphalt repairs. We have been working on our MS4 Pawn Inspections with HRG Engineering, and as of this date, all ponds have been inspected. We are currently inspecting and reporting inlet and outfall inspections for records according to our permit. We have currently inspected 986 inlets. We will be working on getting this completed this year for our MS4 reporting cycle. We have started work on some of our retention ponds and bioretention areas that were called out in our pond inspections. This will be an ongoing area of work for this department. We have completed retention pond work at 3 ponds at the Francie Building and 2 ponds along Old Mine Road. We've installed street signs and regulatory signs in the Parkside development, and we trimmed trees overhanging the cartway to reduce damage to plow trucks. We've begun patching potholes and curb repairs from the damage incurred by winter maintenance operations with hot asphalt. You can report potholes to the Public Works Department. Materials ordered for the upcoming construction season have started to arrive, and we will be ready once the weather breaks to move forward. And we've installed new street signs where necessary due to poor reflectivity or damage, and we removed any unnecessary signs. And the Malabar project looks like it will be completed sometime, hopefully by October. That concludes the report.
I think we all said amen to that, right? For Malabar.
And It's unbelievable how much you use that road.
Yes, it is.
Mr. President, if I may, real quick.
Yes, sir.
I just want to send a congratulations out to Mr. Pastor. The reason he's not here tonight is because he's a new father.
Oh, wow.
So, yeah.
Fantastic.
So,
Thank you for adding that.
Congratulations.
Appreciate that. Congratulations for Mr. Pastor. Okay, on behalf of Public Safety, Mr. Dern.
Thank you. Mr. Maloney is here. He will give the EMS monthly report. Brian?
All right, thank you, Councilman Dern. I'll make this a little quicker than earlier, but I appreciate the opportunity for being able to present that. That meant a lot to the crews, to the first responders, police, so thank you.
Us too.
But Brian Maloney, Director of Operations, Plum EMS, for the month of April, we ended up running a total of 250 responses. 163 of those ended up being transports to the hospital, so it was a busy month for us as well. We ended up going to neighboring communities 25 times. 15 of those resulted in transports, and the number of times needed for mutual aid to come into Plum happened 14 times last month, so it was about 5.8% of the time that we needed like one of our mutual aid agreements to come in. For the month of April, we actually wrapped up CPR training, and I'll tell you what, we were really going gung-ho with the borough employees. We did so far we've done all the police department and the borough administration, and now we're working actually with DPW, and the library's also reached out to me. The goal is to get this education out, as you can see tonight, and I'll tell anybody anytime I do a CPR class, whenever I've had a cardiac arrest saved, I've never done it by myself. There's always been somebody who's done CPR before I got there. And so that's how it's how important it is. So please remember that. And the other thing, tomorrow we're wrapping up the second round of the COVID-19 vaccine for homebound residents in Plum. Once again, we're working with the community center and the county department of health. So we're going to have over 30 people. Now, to me, I'm all about productivity, okay, and do want to keep going, but that's not how this is. You literally have to sit there for 15 minutes after the administration of the vaccine, which is actually kind of nice. I've gotten like Swiss rolls and donuts. Like I've gotten a lot of that too, because people appreciate being out there. I've heard some incredible stories. I met some great people in the community. So, there were 3 of us that did it last time. We're doing it again tomorrow, and we're really looking forward to it and glad we could have this opportunity. So, any questions or comments? Any good news and good information?
Again, you do an excellent job.
Thank you for all you do.
Yep.
Thank you very much. I
Greatly
appreciate
appreciated.
Thanks, Brian. That concludes my report, sir. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Dern. Planning and Economic Development, Mr. Vento.
Thank you, Mr. President. Planning and Economic Development Report for April 2021 is as follows. The financial summary, there were 121 permits issued and $30,420.50 in revenue brought in. The Planning Commission did not meet in April. The Zoning Hearing Board met on April 21st and reviewed the following applications. One was a request from Burton Kuhn, which was tabled so it could be documentation could be reviewed, and another one request from Fednord Fertile, maybe. But this request was granted by the Zoning Hearing Board. There were also meetings and conference calls, which is really too numerous to mention without being totally redundant, all this stuff, but there's a lot of stuff goes on in the office day to day, and that's just part of it. There were no housing plan issues of note this month, other than normal inspections and stuff. And borough property related, the municipal center, they attended a bi-weekly OAC meetings for the new building, employees meetings to discuss office and workflow layouts, which is going to be important to the final building of the new borough building. And utility and right-of-way issues are all GIS centric this month. So most of them are locating and establishing either inlets and pipes or the end walls of some of these previously built ponds that the borough, didn't have the wherewithal to locate before. This stuff is all very important, because if there's something wrong in the community that needs an emergency thing, we can go right to the GIS and locate that, and we can dispatch people to get to that place really quickly. Most of the other stuff was catch basin inspections, locations for the new ASA locations, and discussing with the HRG, which is our subcontractor, on how to were hired to really deal with MS4 community issues. And the MS4 issues were GIS work and Outfall inspections, uploading of drawings, plans from archives, and meetings to discuss PNG stream restoration. We had 13 complaints on the code enforcement side. They were addressed, and they range from abandoned vehicles, junk and debris, and failure to obtain occupancy permits. Many training webinars were attended this month, and a couple of them I'll definitely note, because it's ICC training for post-frame construction, also ICC training for the codes for the zoning. And they also relocated manufacturing housing. A lot of times when these are brought into the community, they're not brand new. So stuff has to be rehabilitated and make sure it's right before it can be installed. So dealing with devastation, how to effectively plan your response, all stuff that it's like ongoing for this staff, so it's very important they do these things. And there was one field visit and review of historical areas of the former lake behind ProSource on New Texas Road. If you all remember, that's the old, I don't know what they called it, the duck pond or the pay lake that used to be there a long time ago, but it's been eliminated historically. I guess they're just checking out to make sure it's still not becoming a lake again. So that's all I have for this month, and thanks, Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. Vento. Parks and Recreation, Mr. Delaney.
Thank you, Mr. President. For Parks and Recreation, for Larry Mills Park, staff has worked on field repairs as much as possible due to the amount of rain we had during the month. At Plum Creek Park, this rain also affected our ability to complete works on Field 7 and 8. We're continuing to work on the new dugouts and backstops. Current work consisted of grading for the new dugouts, installing fence posts for the backstops and dugouts, and installing fencing for the backstops. We're hoping if the weather allows us, we can get a little dry. Maybe Field 7 and 8 will be done within the next 2 weeks. But again, that really depends on the weather. I want to make sure everybody's aware that there's still trout swimming in Plum Creek Park for all the fishermen out there. It's been really nice to see the banks still filled with people fishing. For Renton Field, please, softball and baseball season has started, so please be respectful for those who have permits to use the field. If you would like a permit, please visit our website for instructions on how to apply. At Logan's Ferry Park, Plum Boro Landscaping started working on the Logan's Ferry Playground. A new wall was installed near the new parking lot, and grading work was completed so the new playground could be installed. Parks and Rec will be installing the playground equipment very soon. At Renton Park, Phase 1 of 4 is just about to be complete. The playground should be accessible very soon, and we're already beginning the talks for Phase 2. So important notes, reservations are now being taken for Larry Mills and Plum Creek Pavilions and Renton Ballfield. Please visit the website for instructions on how to reserve a pavilion. Please stay mindful of others that are around you. Continue to practice social distancing and stay safe. Please, please, please follow no parking signs at the parks, especially down at Plum Creek Park. When it gets filled up, it gets tight down there. So please, 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 if there's a no parking sign, don't park there. And then in terms of Borough Haps, April was a very busy month. Big shout out to the borough staff for the egg extravaganza. We also had the kids trout fishing event on the 17th, and then cleanup day turned into cleanup week. We had over 200 volunteers sign up for roadside cleanup to help a senior. Numerous roads were cleaned up all across the borough, and we had volunteers go to 5 different households and provide services. It was weeding, spreading mulch, and general yard work. So big thanks to everybody who participated in Cleanup Week. It's always good to get out there and red up the borough. We also had Socks with a Mission, where the Plum Rotary Club collected over 3,000 pairs of socks. Donations were accepted at the borough building and at the egg event, along as other locations throughout the borough. This was the most socks ever collected during a single drive. So hats off to the community members for stepping up. Socks are an amazing, important thing. Please pay attention to our upcoming events. On May 17th starts our first Monday market right at Plum Creek Park. It runs from 3 to 7 p.m. We're also bringing back our Movies in the Park, which will be the second Saturday of June, July, and August. Gates will open at 8 p.m., and we know our June 12th feature will be Tom and Jerry. And the big announcement, I would say, is that we're still planning to have a Summer Fest. It'll be held on June 24th, 25th, and 26th at Larry Mills Park. And obviously with the COVID, details are still really, really ironed out, and we will release them as soon as we have them. And that'll be it.
Excellent. Thank you, Mr. Delaney. And I think we're certainly looking forward to all those Borough Haps events coming up.
Yes, it's going to be a big fun summer.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Okay, that concludes our committee reports. The Planning Commission will not meet in May, and now we will move on to citizen comments on non-agenda items.
We have one gentleman signed up, Sam Hughes.
Mr. Hughes? State your name and address, sir.
My name is Sam Hughes. I live at 2149 Cayuga Drive. Before I get started, I would like to thank all the people in our borough that work and the volunteers that help keep us safe, and that ceremony was really nice. So I just wanted to say that. I'm here on a problem. I've really tried to resolve this before I got here. I didn't really want to come here, but here I am. The road in front of my house is sinking. It's sinking in front of my neighbor's house. I have damage to my property. I now have damage to my car. Now, I have a timeline. I hope you give me some time here. I have a timeline that I've tried to resolve this. And this all started in February of 2018. I fired up my snow blower. I went out and blew my snow out of my driveway, and I always do in front of my house, all the way up to my neighbors, because the plow buries me in. And I noticed that there was a depression in the road. My snow blower was going to have it. So after the snow melted, I noticed that the curbing along the roadway was starting to give way too. So on 2/13 of 2018, I called and left a voicemail with the Public Works Department trying to explain my problem. Got no return call. On 4/4 of 2018, I called and left another message. This time, Mary did get back to me. She's the borough secretary, I assume. She got back to me, and I wasn't home, but I called her the next day, and I tried to explain what was going on in front of my street. And she said that the batch plant was closed, and they really couldn't patch. And I told her from what I could see, because in that couple months, I could see that there was a bigger problem than just being patched. So I talked to her, and then she said she was going to leave a message back to Public Works, a voicemail, and post a message on their board. I never heard any more. Now, on 4/30 of 2018, I sent a registered letter to Mr. Thomas, our borough manager, explaining what was going on. I gave him hard static measurements that I had taken at the time. I've taken pictures from get-go. I have 1 million pictures of what's been going on for these last 3 years. Just in the amount of time that I've made my first call to, I sent him a registered letter. It sunk almost 2 inches, the roadway. What started out as a 6-inch depression that was maybe 2 foot long, right now is 40 inches wide and 300 foot long. I called on 6/3. I never got a return from him either. On 6/3 of 2019, I called Mr. Thomas's office, and I talked to his secretary, and I tried to explain to her what was going on. The damage on my property, I have a concrete curbing along my driveway. It was cracking, it is sunk, it is twisted, all at the end of the road. My driveway is sinking on one side. It's just, like I said, I've tried and tried and tried, and she kept saying, well, you mean you called in January of 2019? I said, no, I started this in 2018. So on 10/22 of 2019, I sent a registered, or not a registered, I sent a letter to the advance leader, to the editorial pages, and I sent pictures, but they never sent anything back. On 6/23 of 2020, I sent a letter with pictures to one of our new councilmen, but I never heard back from them either. Trying to get some help. I didn't send it registered, so I really can't mention his name, but I did send one. I sent it to this building, but I've never heard back. Now, on 10/14 of 2020, I called the mayor, and I'm sure he probably remembers. I don't know if he does. I tried to explain to him what was going on. He said he had a meeting that night, and he got back to me that night and said he would send people the next day on the 15th. Now, I don't know how many people come by. I actually talked to Joe Fischetti, who was there, and I showed him all the damage to my property. That day, that same day, the mayor called me back and said there is a problem. Mr. Fischetti had told him there was a problem, and maybe they try to get some blacktop down so I could at least get my car in and out of my driveway without being damaged. He said that he would send Mr. Benny to come look at the problem. Now, whether he came or not, I can't say. I have a video doorbell, but I didn't see anybody out there. And he said he would get back. He said Mr. Benny would look at it and get back to him, and that was on 10/15 of 2020. Now, 11/17, I called the mayor again and left him a message because I hadn't heard anything. 11/23 was about a week later. Mr. Slagle called me, and he said he was surprised to hear from me because Mr. Benny was supposed to talk to me, which he never did. He never came to my house. There's a lot of damages to my property, and then I asked the mayor, what could I do about all my damage, and he said, well, I was on my own, is what he told me. I know we're getting a new road this year, but one side of my driveway is 6 inches higher than the road. If they take out 1.5 inches or 1.25 inches, I'm still going to be 6 inches from the road. My neighbor's boyfriend has a Mitsubishi. He can't get it in their driveway, one up. I've got an estimate on my curbing along the side of my house, which along my driveway is over $2,000. I got $1,000 damage to my car now. If somebody would have come out and taken a look at this, we could have avoided all this, and that's all I have to say.
I personally, I'm sorry you're going through all this, and I don't know, maybe Mr. Thomas and the mayor have more comments about this as to what's going on.
I don't have any. I mean, I spoke with the gentleman here, Sam, is it not?
Yes.
And I asked people to go out there, and I believe they went out, checked it out. I don't know what the status is.
Does anybody know the status from our staff that's here tonight?
I will get you an answer on the status.
What was the cause of the erosion
We don't
to the
know.
road?
We don't know. First, they said it could be. This mayor said maybe it's mine, some guidance. Then they said the engineer said they come out and looked at it and said it was road wear, but it's along the side of my house. The only thing that goes up and down along the side of my house is the mail truck. And then they said it could be water damage now, but this is 3 years. This has been going on for 3 years. And now, like I said, I got $1,000 damage to my car. I got $2,000 damage to my property. And I don't think any resident should be treated like this. I just don't.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We appreciate you coming and bringing it to our attention, sir. And, as Mr. Vento said, and the mayor will look into the status of it and get back in touch with you.
And if not, come back to the next meeting and find out what's going on. Okay? Yeah, I can call him. You want to give me your stop when you're on your way out the door? Give me your phone number. We'll find out. Get back to you as soon as I can, when I know something.
Okay. Any other citizen comments on non-agenda items? Okay. Seeing none, we will entertain a motion to adjourn.
First, I'd like to, Mr. Maloney is still here, but you need some help with your hiccups?
Yeah, maybe I can talk to him about that.
It'll be high, but I'll give you a help.
I'm sure he will. I might not survive it, though.
All right, with that, I'll motion to adjourn.
Thank you, Mr. Doyle. Motion by Mr. Doyle.
Seconded.
Second by Mr. Dern. All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. We are adjourned.